what's happening? Kicking into another edition of Lacrosse Now. He is Tom Eschen. I'm Travis Eldridge. Thanks for making us part of your March Madness. We're hoping for some madness of our own college lacrosse this weekend.
You needed a break from all those basketball games anyway.
Exactly.
Didn't you? I mean, you've been probably watching them all day. Time for some lacrosse.
Let's do it.
Start with what has become the battle for the Big Ten on the women's side. We have Penn State versus Maryland. Two programs that combined for 5 Final Four trips in the last 3 years.
It's a lot.
Those two playing in Happy Valley tonight.
We had an upset alert in this one.
We sure did. It was the first nationally televised game in Panzer Stadium history, and Kathy Reese not pleased with their team early on, and you're going to see why. It was a little wet out there. Sydney Wolfington comes from behind. Penn State up 2-0 early. They would take a 3-0 lead, I believe, also in this one. Then here comes Maryland, obviously pumped up from that speech by Kathy Reese. Erica Evans, who had a couple goals. The lead has cut to just 1. A little rainy out there, a little damp. There's a big storm coming in the northeast here in the next couple days. There's your weather report. Now here's a goal from Caleb Reese-Alari, who had a couple goals. 4-3 Penn State. They still have the lead after that game was tied. Later in the first half, it's tied at 4. Callie Hartshorn, the little BTB. Oh. That's a big-time BTB.
Man.
With some oomph behind it. She had a hat trick. 5-4 Maryland. Let's go to the second half. Maryland's got things going now. They're working it. Caroline Steele had a hat trick of herself. 11-5 Maryland. We go to the second half and 16-5.
Man, that got out of hand quickly.
Megan Siverson shoots and scores. 17-5. Maryland goes on to win this one. And as you can see, it was pretty convincing. 17-6. Brandy Griffin with 6 points. Grace Griffin, no relation, finishing with 5 on her own. Hartshorn had 4. Maryland won 19 of the 25 draw controls. Taylor Suppley with 16 saves for Penn State. The Terps are at James Madison on Sunday. The Terps are, Penn State is at Northwestern a week from now. Yeah, that Maryland and JMU game you can see here on Lac Sports Network. That's right. On Sunday. That's exciting. That's a big one. JMU trying to bounce back. How about a few other scores to pass along from today's action? Winthrop all over Wofford, 18-4. You had Lauren Morris scoring 8 points for Winthrop, getting their second win of the year, improving to 2-8. Wofford falling to 2-6, but the Terriers got them later on tonight in the NCAA tournament. Oh, yeah. Go Wofford. Could be a good day for Wofford. Could be. JoJo Franklin, 2 goals. Marquette had their 3-game win streak snapped at the hands of Central Michigan. Golden Eagles now 6-5. Chips to 3-5 on the year with the win. Anna Schoonover scored 7 goals. Now, record. Yeah. CMU record. Previous record, I think, was 5. What's up, Chippewas? All right, Chips, fire up, Chips. In some Lax biz, Denver Outlaws faceoff man Max Adler, the newest Cascade Maverick athlete. The company made the announcement earlier today. Adler fresh off winning an MLL championship with the Outlaws last season, part of the Israeli national team for the World Championships last summer as well. So we have Outlaws faceoff man Max Adler joining us now. Also one of the newest Cascade Maverick athletes in Major League Lacrosse. Max, first off, you were at the MLL draft presented by Cascade. I got to get your thoughts. What did you make of what your team did in the draft this year?
The draft, just the overall experience was awesome. I loved how they did a tryout beforehand and then the draft after. And the draft was at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And it was really an incredible venue because obviously the first couple rounds are exciting, but then as you get towards the later rounds, they really had a ton of interaction for the fans with us signing autographs, and they had a really fun NASCAR simulator thing, which was really cool and worth, if you're ever around there, it's definitely worth checking out. So we had a lot of fun doing that. But I'm really excited. I really liked our draft picks. I've watched them. Honestly, all of them really had an awesome weekend this past weekend. I watched a couple of those games. So, and a couple of our attackmen actually played in my brother's conference, the NEC. So it was great to see them, and really excited to get to training camp and see how good they are. So I can't wait.
You mentioned the simulator. When are you trading your lacrosse stick for a car?
My results on that were not very good, so definitely no time soon.
Fair enough. Stay with what you've been very good at, and you've been good in the MLL. The different changes here in the offseason are unique because now, usually this time of year, you're gearing up, ready to roll for week 1. Well, you got a couple more months now to wait to start for that June 1st opening weekend. How does that change your kind of rhythm of getting ready for a season?
Yeah, I mean, it changes things just in terms of I'm so used to, especially coming from college to the MLL. The season was a little later, so it wasn't a huge adjustment. But in terms of working out and conditioning, I have a great strength coach and Coach Jimmy Pendergast, who's actually the head strength coach for Hofstra. So he does all my workouts for me, and he's just really been able to gear them towards when my season is. So that's kind of one of the changes I've made. And then the other change is it just gives me more time to prepare and work on my craft. So I do a lot of coaching with Face Off Factory, and something I've realized is all the coaching I do, it helps me a lot fine-tune my skills, and then just training with local college kids and just doing everything I can to get ready for the season. So definitely excited to get started with the games and everything like that, because that's the fun part.
So with this big announcement and you joining the Cascade Maverick team, I know you being a Division II guy, now getting a chance to play at the highest level. What does this mean to be able to now have a chance to help represent a company?
It's awesome. And I mean, we were a Cascade Maverick college at Bentley, so I've really been using their products my whole life. And I mean, for me, the most important thing is how I play on the field. So I definitely wanted to partner with a company and sign with a company that I'm comfortable using their stuff. And I mean, just from using Maverick Cascade products, their gear is really the most comfortable, I think the most stylish, and just gives me the best ability to perform. So I really couldn't be more excited. And yeah, we're working on some really, really cool things that I can't fully talk about yet, but super excited for where the future's heading with them.
I know they can design some pretty sweet custom helmets. You got one in the works here? Something maybe chromed out? I don't know.
Yeah, so yeah, they actually just sent me ESPN themed helmet, which was really cool. I'll post some pictures about that, but that's a really clean helmet. And then I love the one they made for our Team Israel. Those helmets, I don't know if you guys have had the chance to see them, but they're awesome. And I think those are some of the coolest helmets I've ever played with or even seen.
So, I mean, the helmets, everything that Cascade has done, we've got a bunch here in the studio too,
Yep.
have been awesome. So when you look at your gear bag now, what's in there?
So I use the Roam line of pads, so Roam arm guards, Roam gloves, and the gloves are especially important to me facing off, and I think they offer great protection because, I mean, your hands get all torn up facing off, and they have a great magnetic strip that goes around the wrist. So instead of cutting that off, and especially when you're going to pick up a ground ball, not having that, I'm able to have that and not have the annoying Velcro. So that's kind of what I have in my bag. And then I use the Mission Blank shaft, which is a shaft I really like, where I don't need a ton of tape because of how grippy it is, and really lightweight, so I can still be quick. So that's right in my gear bag right now. And then one other thing I'm not really allowed to talk about.
All right. Well, we'll get you to talk about it at some point soon.
Yeah.
Max, congrats on the new sponsorship deal, and we'll catch up with you again soon as we get you ready for the MLL season.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Travis. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Our producer Pete just told me in my ear the Maverick face-off hat's pretty dope.
Whoa. Secrets.
Confirmed.
Secrets.
If you want to go back and rewatch that MLL championship game, you can right now, on demand, right here on Lac Sports Network. That was a gutsy performance from Adler. Watch that and all other Outlaws games right now. More to come here on Lacrosse Now. There's Bill Tierney. He's going to talk about his Pioneers with us in just a few seconds here, about getting ready for Saturday and taking on Towson. And there's Nick Myers. He's going to join us to talk about getting his U19 roster together for 2020.
Plus, playoff spots on the line in the NLL, what the power rankings look like heading into this weekend's action.
Some movement in those power rankings. And the proposed new rules by the FIL making waves. Tidal waves across the lacrosse world. Tsunamis. Chris Marshall weighs in as we debate what it all means next.
Woodall wins the face-off, and that will do it. For the first time since 1992 and the third time ever, the Tigers have knocked off the #1 team in the country. It was a big stage here on a Wednesday night, Davey, and at times it wasn't real pretty, but it kind of fits what Towson is all about. They come away with the 12-10 win.
I'm Tyler Pace with the Calgary Roughnecks. This is Box Lacrosse 101. Today we'll be talking about shuffle passing. As we're doing this drill, we want to make sure that our stick stays above our shoulder and we're passing, we're following through, right? We're not making any cradle motions when we catch it. We're controlling the ball before we release.
Lacrosse Now is brought to you in part by New Balance Lacrosse. Built for lacrosse.
Well, the FIL certainly has the lacrosse community's attention with their set of proposed rules to try and comply with the IOC's version of the new sports and bringing them into the Olympics. Some of the notable facets of this proposal, as we told you last night: 6-on-6 play with 10-person rosters, 45-second shot clocks, face-offs only at the beginning of quarters and overtime, no long poles. When the ball goes out of bounds, possession goes against the team who touched it last.
We're going to bring in analyst Chris Marshall now to weigh in. And Chris, we're going to give our thoughts as well, but let's start with you. What were your initial reactions to that full list of rules, basically creating a new form of lacrosse?
I'm not really surprised. This is the sort of thing we've been talking about for years, about what it would take to get lacrosse into the Olympics. Everyone in the community has been pretty vocal about wanting lacrosse to be in the Olympics, and now we're seeing some of the rule changes that could make that possible. But we always knew that it had to be a form of lacrosse that helped with competitive balance, which this does. One that you can time very clearly, and that has a field that will fit in the facilities that they'd be able to use. So when I see this, I thought it would probably be a little bigger in terms of players. I thought it would be 6-on-6 plus the goalies, but it's pretty similar to sort of what I had envisioned in my mind.
Yeah, something that stuck home with me was the fact that they wanted to make things uniform for not only just the men team and everything like that, but also the women's side. They sort of wanted to combine the rulings for each of the individual disciplines for the men and the women there. Is that something that you saw too?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly interesting. I mean, it's not going to be exactly the same, of course. I mean, you look at the rules, and they're going to be maintaining the same equipment in terms of the sticks and the eyewear, or the helmets, the goggles rather. And so I think it is going to be the same game, but it'll still have its subtle differences, like we see in the men's and women's game today.
See, so my thing is, and it drove me a little bit crazy yesterday on social media, because there are all these people saying, oh, well, if it's this, it's not lacrosse. Because in my estimation, lacrosse is playing with a lacrosse stick and a lacrosse ball. We have indoor box lacrosse, we have field lacrosse, we have so many different forms of the sport already. What's wrong with Olympic lacrosse? It's still lacrosse, and you're getting more people exposed to the sport. And you know what? I know people like field lacrosse, but if this is the version of the sport that becomes the most popular worldwide, what's wrong with this version?
I mean, that's how I feel about it. When Casey Powell comes out with speed lacrosse, nobody's saying that's not lacrosse just because it's 3-on-3 and you aren't wearing pads and you're using a softer ball. It's still lacrosse. I mean, that's for sure. And this is just a form of lacrosse that, is what they think will give lacrosse the best opportunity to be in the Olympics. And I think that's a massive, massive movement, and something that would be really important for the sport. It's not going to change, the indoor game or the outdoor game. It's just going to be a different version that we might see get exposed to a lot more people. And you look at the rules too, which is interesting. I think it's going to be 3-on-3 essentially on the offensive side, which is it's going to be fun. But also the rule in terms of when it goes out of bounds, even on a shot, is going to be the last team who touches it then it's going to go the other way. So, I mean, you're not going to see backing up shots or anything. So I think it'll be fast. I think it'll be a lot more tactical. And in terms of the offensive plays and stuff than people are giving it credit for. I think they're just think it's going to be running up and down the field with the 5 players and no poles. But I think this is going to be an exciting and, tactical kind of chess match going on. It's just going to be 3-on-3 instead of 6-on-6.
Well, I think from the shrunken field size, too, you get, I think the whole backing up of shots thing sort of, you lose that, I guess, a little bit because there's no room really for someone to be there to back up the shot.
Yeah.
And I think that it is, like you said, I guess I'm just blanking here. I just feel like this is for the Olympics, and the fact that they want this to be Olympic sport, that doesn't mean this is going to carry over to high school or college.
But
it's not going to trickle down, is it?
But, well, I think, Chris, and to correct me if you think I'm wrong, I think this has the possibility to create a new version for the sport that maybe surpasses the version we see.
I mean, I think that's certainly something that could happen. I mean, you look at it. You look at the barrier entry, to play, and if you can find a game where maybe you need less equipment and you certainly need less people, then that's something that I think could be really good for the sport. It's tough to go out there and find 20 people to play a lacrosse game. So when you have the opportunity to have fewer people, then I think that's something that could help the game grow. I mean, the other side too is, we flat out were not going to get lacrosse into the Olympics with the way the competitive balance is. Obviously, we're seeing some teams making some strides. I mean, Czech Republic's been good indoors. Israel has really been making a push indoors and outdoors. Iroquois are always, challenging for the gold medal game. But it's basically just the U.S. and Canada, and you don't have enough competitive balance with only 2 teams playing for the gold medal for there to be any sort of valid argument to get into the Olympics. I mean, that's why sports have been taken out of the Olympics, because you're seeing the same 2 teams play each other over and over again, and people don't want to see that. But when you have 10 guys, and especially, when you think about the 6 that are playing, I mean, you could see reasonably, 6 or 8 nations that could challenge for the medal stand. So, I mean, that's something that I think is exciting, and it will help those countries grow to be more excited about the game, which is good for the sport on a whole.
I do think that you make the good point with the smaller roster sizes in terms of growing the game, not just at an international level, but also on a smaller level. I've been in places around the country that aren't hotbeds, that aren't the best places for lacrosse in the United States, where other sports are much bigger, and you try to play the full field style of the game, and I'm sorry, the product isn't that great. Isn't it as good as you would see in a Baltimore or a Long Island? It's just not as good. And I guess my question here is why is there such a big pushback? Why is everybody, lacrosse Twitter, so upset about all of this, knowing that this could be the ticket to the Olympics? It just seems like there's a lot of pushback. Like, you started the segment by saying everybody wants lacrosse to the Olympics,
but they don't want this version.
Exactly. So why do you think the problem is here?
I mean, it's like lacrosse Twitter just doing what lacrosse Twitter does.
It's a little bit more than that. It's not just lacrosse Twitter.
No, this is lacrosse Twitter.
It's people hate change. I don't like change, but I understand that change is important and something that's necessary to take this sport to the next level. So I've accepted that change is coming. And when you look at the differences that have been made in outdoor collegiate lacrosse over the last couple of seasons on both the men's and the women's side, they like those changes because that's what they were asking for. This is a change that they weren't asking for, but will help the game. And the difference between putting in a shot clock because you think it'll help grow the game and make it faster and more fun to watch versus making a version that will get us in the Olympics, that will get more people to watch it, that will make a fast, fun to watch version of the game. The people who don't want both of those things and only want one of them, that's a disconnect that doesn't make sense to me. You're looking at something that could help collectively grow the sport. And I think rugby is an excellent example. Rugby has become more popular in the United States because the U.S. is considerably more competitive in rugby sevens, which is in the Olympics, than we were at full field 15s rugby. So that's something that has helped the game grow in a country where we were less competitive before the rules changed to be advantageous. I still think the U.S. and Canada are going to be the best teams, but this will grow the game in other countries, which will help everyone.
And the big thing I think we should all note here is that these are proposed changes.
Yes.
And the countries in the FIL are going to try these out. So nothing here is concrete in stone. This is all proposals. So that's something else to keep in mind, too.
Yes. Everybody relax. Chris, we appreciate the time. Thanks, man.
Anytime.
R-E-L-A-X.
The great philosopher Aaron Rodgers once said.
That's right. Well, speaking of great philosophers, Nick Myers won a U19 world title in 2016 with Team USA. How he's trying to do it again in 2020.
Talk to him. Plus 90s night in Buffalo. Get ready for Dane's World, Bandit Land. They're celebrating accordingly. We'll show you a little bit more and tell you where they are in the power rankings.
Designing extra man offense plays, it's best to incorporate some element of surprise to try to confuse the defense. This 1-4-1 to a 3-3 uses a ball side slip screen to try to get an easy look in the crease. It's best suited for intermediate to advanced skill levels. The trigger on this play is the player at X. I'm going to have him go to the left, but feel free to mirror this and you can go to the right as well. He's going to carry to the left side. As this action occurs, we're going to get a little slip screen right here between these two players. The other crease man is going to roll off and be an outlet.
7 games this weekend in the NLL. 3 on Friday night. You got Toronto taking on Georgia. With the win, the Rock clinch a playoff spot. The Swarm and Bandits have already clinched theirs. Meanwhile, Colorado and Vancouver, they play twice this weekend, which is huge. They're tied for that 4th and final playoff spot in the West at the moment. On Friday, the last game, you got the top 2 teams in the West playing as San Diego hosts Saskatchewan. Really interesting one. As for Saturday, it's 90s night in Buffalo, Tom.
Whoa, look at this. No strings attached.
In sync.
Look at Sean Evans on the edge there. Oh, what's that?
The Bandit Boys.
Oh, wow. Yep.
We showed you Dane Smith and Josh Byrne in their Dane's World video, the ripoff of Wayne's World yesterday, and now you get a chance to see some of the artwork that they have designed, some album covers for 90s night.
Photoshop, very nicely done.
Man, that's stellar.
So that game, 7:30 Saturday night. Then moving on, we've got Calgary visiting Rochester at 7:30 Eastern as well. And Vancouver playing their second of their doubleheader in Colorado on Saturday night too. So there's a lot of games and some 90s action for you.
90s stuff is great.
It's fun. It's a good theme night.
We contemplated just ranking our top Nickelodeon shows in honor of 90s night, but our producer didn't like that very much. So we're going to give you our NLL power rankings.
Yes, we shall.
Let's just start at the bottom and knock a couple of these out. Nighthawks still sitting there at the bottom.
A little bit of change here at 10, right? We got a little bit something different there.
Got the Wings going down. Yeah, look, they've played a couple of close games, but the back-to-back losses now, and they're still not winning. They're still sitting there at 2-10. You got the Mammoth in 9th. They did beat Calgary,
yeah, well,
which
let's add Calgary up there. Doesn't move.
Why they're on the way up, and the Warriors at 8. What do you like of what the Mammoth did against the Roughnecks?
I mean, the question might be, I guess, that the Roughnecks don't move beyond lower than these two. It's just you look at the body of work at this point in the season, and Calgary's done more against these two teams who each had a nice win over the weekend to kind of keep pace with each other and sort of get things going. With Colorado with that win at Calgary, 11-9, so they stay at 9. I think the more impressive win of the weekend was the Warriors taking down New England 12-9. New England last week number 3 in our power rankings, so as you can see, that was the Warriors up a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's a good win for Vancouver. Obviously, New England's trying to figure things out with the Callum Crawford situation. We'll get to them in a second, but that's why we get the Warriors there. Let's go to 6, because the Rush they lose, which ends a 3-game winning streak. They had started to turn things around, but
they did.
The interesting thing that I've figured out when looking back at this team, and this is a Rush team. We have them 6th in the power rankings. They've underachieved maybe a little bit up to their standards, but still, when you look at them against the West Division, they're 5-1 this year. That's good. Those are the teams.
I disagree.
Wait, do they have to be perfect?
I think for the Rush, the bar is very high.
Yeah, they have one game that the Roughnecks came out and beat them up.
Yep.
In the West Division. Otherwise, they have been really good, and they've got to win over San Diego. It's one of the reasons I'm so intrigued about this weekend's game against the Seals, because this is their because this is their first time going to San Diego, and at the moment, the Seals are their biggest team that they got to get past in order to get back to the NLL Finals.
I know. I'm trying. I don't know. I disagree with you on the Rush. I mean, they're 1-4 against the East, and the East has been the bar. And there's people expect more out of the Rush because of their past.
But all they need is 3 wins against the East at the end of the year, and they're hoisting a trophy.
That's a lot to ask at this point.
All right.
They're 1-4 at this point.
That's true. Black Wolves. Are you concerned with the Black Wolves with the loss to Vancouver?
I think they're not. It's a bad time in the season with Callum Crawford. We talked about this going into the suspension, and then so they get Callum Crawford. We're not sure if he's going to be out because the hearing. I think we're going to find out probably more about that tomorrow.
Yeah.
But he was out last week. Joe Resetaritz comes in the lineup. They aren't exactly cohesive at this point of the season. We've got about a month and a week, 5-6 weeks left in the season as we get closer to the playoffs. They have to figure things out pretty quickly because they've been up and down all year. They sort of got on track with Crawford, but at this point, that loss kind of hurts them and says, hey, we're trying to figure things out yet again. Well,
and the tough thing with the Crawford situation is now you're wondering, are you going to have him for the rest of the year? Because they're sitting there, and it's a 5-game suspension still looming. The decision's supposed to be made this week. If he's out for 5 games, that's the rest of the season, the regular season for the Black Wolves.
But they do have time to figure it out because it's very likely that the Nighthawks and Wings aren't going to make a run at that 4th spot. So New England, I think, at this point are in. So don't have to worry about that. No, one more thing: New England number 9 defense in the league, which might come back to haunt them. Okay.
Right.
But they moved the Swarm up 1 with the win over Rochester.
Yep.
So there's that. Then we got San Diego.
Yeah. And look, the win itself isn't maybe the most impressive thing about this, but they clinch a playoff spot, and they're 5-3 against the West. They've got this big game with Saskatchewan. The playoff spot thing, being the first team in the West Division to clinch a spot as an expansion franchise is insane.
There's 2 things that's really impressive about San Diego in the last few weeks here. Number 1, they're 3rd in defense. And we all looked at this team and the way they were put together on offense and be like, oh, they're going to score a lot, but they're going to give up a lot. But right now they're 3rd in goals allowed per game, which I think is really impressive.
Yep.
And at the same time, so we talked about after that 2-week bye, where they kind of were away from each other, obviously, for a little bit of time, came back and lost 2. But since that 2-game losing streak, they've won 3 in a row. So now they sort of figured things out again, and hopefully they don't have any more lulls or anything like that where they can keep working together. I think it's been important for them all year long.
All right, let's get to our top 2
Top 2, yep.
And it remains the same. You got The Rock taking care of business. And the question I have for The Rock here is they've got some big games here down the stretch in the division. They got to play Georgia, Buffalo a couple of times, and New England. Those are big games against teams that are in your division. And I know they're going to clinch a playoff spot here very soon. But they've got a lot of games left in a short amount of time here. And I'm interested to see how they respond because they could finish anywhere from here to 4 in the East Division when you look at how things play out for the rest of the year.
I think they still have something to prove for the Rock at this point. They sort of had the leg up on everybody to start the year, had a really good beginning, and then sort of every so often they sort of put up a clunker. Sort of like Georgia, I think, are kind of similar in the same way. So I think they still have something to prove. And real quick here on Buffalo, they are still, to me, unreal. I just feel like the win in Saskatchewan, one of the best games of the year in the NLL, one of the best games in a long time. So Buffalo leading the league in several categories still and have maintained that consistency. And then they have Josh Byrne, who was active last week, didn't play, but we've been told that he's going to expect to play this week, which is just putting more even on top of that.
I mean, you had him and Dane Smith. I know you got Sean Evans. Him and Dane Smith, 2 of my favorite players.
And their defense, too, has been good. Second in the league, Priolo has been great. And you saw him with the black eye there, so you know he's getting roughed up, which is a good thing at the end of the day.
Bandits. still on top.
They've been up. We're going to count how many weeks they've been on top for. It's been quite a few.
Top of the power rankings and in the promotional rankings.
And in our hearts. Moving on, Phil Tierney knows he has a tough test in Towson on Saturday. What Austin French's return to the lineup has meant to his squad the last couple games.
And U19 head coach for Team USA, Nick Myers, joins us. What he's looking for as he puts together this roster for the 2020 World Championships.
In Ireland.
Yeah. Travis here.
Speed. Power. This trophy is not given, it must be earned. The NCAA Men's Lacrosse Championships. May 25th through 27th at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia.
In the stick, boom, on the money, cradle and a pass. Win the first championship!
Visit ncaa.com/lacrosse to get your tickets today.
All right, let's flash back. Summer of 2016, Team USA versus Canada, U19. U.S. trailed essentially for the entire game. They come back, score in the gold medal game. Ryan Conrad, the now Virginia standout, scored the game winner essentially as time expired. That won it for Team USA. Kept a perfect streak of gold medals going for the U.S. in the U19 World Championships. They're now 8 for 8 all time. But now the process begins yet again. Once again, Ohio State coach Nick Myers will lead the U.S. U19 team, and they're currently accepting applications from players in order to qualify age-wise. A player's birthday, it's got to fall between September 1st, 2000, that's under 19 as of August 31st in the year preceding the World Championships, and July 8th, 2004. Out of the applicants, around 100 players will head to training camp this June at U.S. Lacrosse headquarters, the start of this tryout process, to then create a final roster of 23 before those 2020 World Championships in Ireland. And so we have the U.S. U19 coach Nick Myers joining us now, also the head coach at Ohio State. And Nick, you went through this before when you were the head coach for this team back in 2016. What did you learn throughout that process that can prepare you here for 2020?
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me on. You know, I love what LSN does. You know, grateful for the support of the sport. You know, I think to speak to what I learned, you know, I learned a lot. You know, I think I've been really fortunate. I've been here at the Ohio State University since 2001. And to have an opportunity to kind of break the mold and get out of Ohio State and work with some amazing people was first and foremost. You know, the FIL rules are a bit different, as you know. So that was a challenge. But I think just going through the first phases of the interview process, through hiring a coaching staff, to the challenges of bringing a group together that only has, you know, so much time. And when you do have time together, it's just for a couple of days, and then you don't see each other. At the same time, you're whittling down a team to a 23-man roster. So, but those, you know, 9-10 days that we had in Vancouver were really special. Obviously, we were fortunate to accomplish the mission of being world champions, but memories for a long time. And guys, I still text. You know, I'll text Sowers after a game, a Conrad, a Docs occasionally, and they text me. It's great. I mean, those are memories and relationships that'll last a long time.
Yeah, you guys had a special group that was able to come back against Canada there in that gold medal game. Still one of my favorite games I've seen over the last couple years. And those guys have gone on to have good college careers for the most part, especially the guys who were then going in from high school freshmen to college freshmen. How do you feel like that process maybe helped their college careers a little bit?
That's a good question. I think you probably have to ask them. You know, we're going to play two this weekend, and Brian and Hugh, two guys that were a huge part of that championship run. And as you know, we got two on our team, and Christian and Matt Borges, and, you know, 3 from Team Canada. You know, so we have 5 guys that played in that game you referenced. So, but I think that was an interesting, you know, kind of process we went through of, taking some guys that were at that time in that 16 class versus the 15 class. This time around, it'll be primarily 19s and 20s. But we just felt like that 16 class, you look at a Mac O'Keefe, a Jared Bernhardt, who ended up being the MVP of the games, Michael Sowers, and then, Brian Costabile and Terry Lindsay, those guys were on our blue line, and our blue line was kind of our defensive midfield group. And, here you look at a guy like Brian, he's one of the best midfielders in college lacrosse. And, Terry's been kind of a staple for Duke. So all those guys that we took that were in that 16 class, we were really pleased with the way they were able to acclimate without having college lacrosse under their belt, with a bunch of guys that have had a full year, and really kind of bring that team together in a lot of ways.
It is a process that has to be so difficult because we have so many really good players that come into college lacrosse and can perform right away as freshmen. Walk me through how difficult that process is.
It's probably one of the most challenging processes that we've had. I think that goes back to you surrounding yourself with the right people. I've got a great, coaching staff first time around, and feel every bit as confident in the staff we've been able to put together this time. And it's humbling. I mean, just amazing coaches, certainly my brother Pat, but Andrew Stimmel from Yale, Tony Resch, as I mentioned, Stan Ross. It's just a great group, so I think, we're excited. We're looking forward to working together. And then we'll bring in anywhere from 8 to 10 high school coaches they'll be evaluators as well at that first tryout. But you make a great point. You look at those 100 kids out there, and you could pick, 3 or 4 23-man teams that on paper all look incredible. The challenge is, picking the right ones, for this particular mission. And you can only have so many alpha middies. You don't want to have volume shooters on your second midfield line, with the FIL rules. And so you're looking for the right parts. You need defensive midfielders. You need guys that can play a little bit of man in zone defensively. You need the guys that have the discipline to weather a 2 or 3 minute possession by Canada or the Iroquois. You need guys that are durable. Playing 6, 7, 8 games in a 9-day window with 20-minute quarters is incredibly challenging. So having now experienced it, I have a little bit better idea of what we're looking for. And, when you get into those tryouts, you strain a little bit, and you really kind of give the men a chance to showcase themselves, and you have to make some tough decisions.
And finally, you mentioned your brother Pat, part of this coaching staff again. You had a chance to win gold with him back in 2016. He's part of this staff again. How cool is it to be able to have your brother alongside you for this whole experience?
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, I think he's an amazing coach. He's as good a recruiter as there is in college lacrosse. He's doing an amazing job right now as a head coach, getting that Lafayette program turned around. You look at the UPenn team, the success they're having, and the guys that we had on the USA team like Simon Matthias and Alex and Tyler Dunn. He was a big part of those guys' development and recruiting them there, and certainly when he was at Carolina. So, Pat's a part of the staff because I think he's an amazing coach, first and foremost. Two, the chemistry that we have, it's hard, as I said, with the players. You only have so much time to develop these relationships. So, Coach Ross, Stan Ross was someone I worked for at Butler for a year, an amazing head coach. Coach Resch is someone I've known for a number of years. Is entrenched in the USA Lacrosse. Andrew Stimmel was a captain for us here at the Ohio State University. He's obviously done great things at Yale, and certainly Pat. So for us, the chemistry is already in lockstep. We have a really good feel for exactly who we are and the type of team we want to build. And so that now the focus can really be put back on the process and making sure we deliver a remarkable experience for the young men involved in every phase, and certainly make the right selection.
Well, Coach, we can't wait to see the team you put together. Going to be fun to see this team go over to Ireland, compete in 2020. Good luck this weekend with Ohio State, and we'll catch up again soon.
You coming to Ireland with us?
I hope so. I will get my passport ready to go. Thanks, Nick.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Hey, if you want to go to Ireland, be considered to be part of this team, you still have time to put your name in that pool. Head to uslacrosse.org for more info. Applications open until April 24th. Still to come, we'll take you around the country with our high school roundup. Plus, we continue to get you ready for our CAA Game of the Week. Number 13, Denver visits 8th-ranked Towson. We'll talk with legendary Pios coach Bill Tierney coming up.
Woodall wins the faceoff, and that will do it. For the first time since 1992 and the third time ever, the Tigers have knocked off the #1 team in the country. It was a big stage here on a Wednesday night, Davey, and at times it wasn't real pretty, but it kind of fits what Towson is all about. They come away with the 12-10 win.
I'm Tyler Pace with the Calgary Roughnecks. This is Box Lacrosse 101. Today we'll be talking about shuffle passing. As we're doing this drill, we want to make sure that our stick stays above our shoulder and we're passing, we're following through, right? We're not making any cradle motions when we catch it. We're controlling the ball before we release it.
The other Big Ten women's game tonight, unbeaten 9th-ranked Michigan against Ohio State. You know this rivalry's always good. Throw the records out when these two play.
The game.
And the Buckeyes starting off strong. Litza Hernandez to Sarah Dickinson. She had 4 goals. Buckeyes with an early lead, but Michigan turning around here. Adriana Pendino to Lily Grass. 5 goals and an assist for Pendino. Wolverines up by 3, but Ohio State not done. Sophie Baez. We're all knotted up at 7 apiece. This is a game, folks. But Michigan, too much. Grass to Nadine Stewart. That's it. That's all. 15-10. Michigan still unbeaten, off to the best start in program history.
That's right. Towson hosts Denver right here on Lac Sports Network this Saturday at noon. Should be another good one. Last 3 years, 3 one-goal games between these two programs. We're all pretty excited about it. Of course, there are connections here. Towson's head coach, Sean Nadalin, former assistant under Bill Tierney when Tierney was at Princeton. In his 3 seasons at Princeton, Nadalin helped the Ivy League school compile a 33-13 record and win 3 straight league championships. As for Tierney, his resume, legendary one, of course. 7 national titles, most recently 2015 in Denver. The other 6 all came with Princeton. He has 9 NCAA final appearances, 15 championship weekend appearances, 16 conference titles, 14 in the Ivy League, 2 in the Big East. Let's send it over to Travis, who's with Coach right now.
All right, let's talk about your Denver team now. You guys are coming off a unplanned week off, with the game unfortunately being canceled at Ohio State because of the crazy weather that you guys had there in Denver. What's the overall effect on this team now and possibly for the season, not having a chance to play the Buckeyes this year?
Look, you know, the Denver-Ohio State rivalry is a great one with a lot of respect from both sides. You know, Coach Meyer's done an amazing job at Ohio State, and you know, it's, as you guys know, it's really important during the year to play the best out-of-conference schedule you can, because each one of us has great conference to give ourselves a chance for the NCAA tournament. So losing that game, you know, as a game to play was certainly a hit to our schedule, and we're disappointed about that, and wish we had the opportunity, but sometimes there's just nothing you could do. We were canceled the day before we were supposed to travel, and then when we started looking at further flights, there was no rebooking for 50 people, you know. And so as we looked at Monday and Tuesday of this week, we're a quarter system school, basically a trimester school, and we're in final exams this week. So we would have somehow had to change 38 final exams to get a game in with only 20 players. And even then, we couldn't get the flights in and out that would have been required for us. So, you know, Coach Myers and his staff were great. We were frustrated by the whole thing, but there was not much we could do about it. And as we talked about the future, excuse me, talk about the future of of maybe playing on a Tuesday, it just became one of those things where logistically it was too hard with the conference schedules that we both have.
Obviously, it's tough to lose that game, and it's obviously also tough because you got to sit on that game you had against Notre Dame from a couple of weeks ago, a loss where you got off to a slow start. How do you try to rejuvenate the team when they don't see another jersey for a week and a half, 2 weeks?
Well, early last week we gave guys some time off, and we were supposed to get started. Thankfully had a good practice on Tuesday before the snow hit. Wednesday we couldn't do anything. It was mayhem around here in Denver. So what we decided to do once it was clear that the game was going to be canceled was to try to make ourselves better. So we concentrated on Thursday with a lot of individual work. We went back to the fall basically and did 1-on-1s, 2-on-2s, 3-on-3s, shooting, anything we could do individually to help make ourselves better. What's compounded that was we had 15 guys with the flu out on Wednesday and Thursday as well. So, it was just one of those crazy weeks. Then on Friday, we went back to the fall where we did a lot of drill work, 3-on-3s, 5-on-5, situational drills. Again, trying to get ourselves better as a team. And then Saturday, we just had an intra-squad game and played hard, made it like as close as we could to what would be a normal Saturday. Obviously, it wasn't the same as playing against Ohio State, but tried our best to, not think about anything but making Denver a better lacrosse team than they were the week before against Notre Dame.
Man, the hits just keep on coming for you guys. I guess one of the positives is you have gotten Austin French back over the last couple of games. What's the effect on the offense bringing him back into the fold?
Well, certainly it's strange that we get Austin back. We get Austin back after 4 games missing, and then we lose Dylan Johnson to an ACL tear before the Notre Dame game. So, look, everybody has injuries, everybody has bad luck, and everybody's got to fight through illness, whatever it might be. The adversity is here, and we've got to fight through it. And so having Austin back was certainly a really good advantage for us. He became instrumental in making our team faster, more alert, and just a more of a well-rounded team. As we've said all along, Colin Rutan did an amazing job for us playing in Austin's spot, but he's a wing guy, and that allows us some more flexibility having Austin back. But just his ability to bang this thing out. He had 5 or 6 assists against North Carolina. Certainly that would have been a defeat without him. So it's great having him back.
Elsewhere on this offense, when we talked about Ethan Walker back in December at the coaches conference, you told me he was maybe one of the most underrated players in the country, maybe forgotten about because you guys are out there in Denver. He's off to another good start. How do you compare him to some of the attackmen that get so much notoriety right now, deservedly so, in Pat Spencer and Grant Amen?
Well, those guys are phenomenal. You talk about those kind of guys, and Jeff Deaton, all these guys, Michael Sowers. These are amazing lacrosse players, and I'm thrilled that our game still has multi-dimensional players like those guys. Ethan has been ridiculous for us from day one, from his freshman year. The difference now is that he is getting more notoriety, maybe not from the media, or which we don't really care about, but he's certainly getting it from the opposing defensive coordinators. And so he's had to be bigger, stronger, work harder on his health. Last year he didn't play at all in the fall because he had a broken back. So this guy has fought through a lot of adversity. He's still the guy we need to be successful. And I know he's happy to have Frenchie back, but Ethan's a guy who can pass the ball better than people think he can. He keeps the offense going, and yet when the going gets tough, he's the one that seems to score the big goal for us all the time.
All right, so you have a big game this weekend against Towson here on LSN. The latest games in this rivalry that it's kind of developed into have been really, really good. What's it like to prepare for this Tigers team?
Well, it's the same as preparing for any Sean Nadelin team. He is these guys going back to 2016 when they beat us in the first round of the tournament. They're always so well prepared. They're big, strong guys. It's a challenge from a lot of different standpoints. Number one, a coaching challenge. Number two, a physical challenge to play against these guys individually. Their goalie's playing well, and the switch has been flipped when it comes to the face-off game, and so we're trying very hard to try to put ourselves in the minds of a lot of other coaches for the last 4 years and figure out how to at least bear with somebody like Alex Woodall, who's going to be, if he's not the best face-off guy in the country, certainly with some of those other guys that we've mentioned in the past, is right up there, and he's a bear. He's put a lot of his life into becoming a better athlete. He's so technically sound now. He's got a lot of different moves. His exits are different. He uses his wings a lot better. He can score goals. So we're getting paid back a little bit by other people from having 4 years of Trevor Baptiste. But life goes on, and that's what coaching's all about, and what playing's all about as well.
Well, Coach, we're really looking forward to this game here on Saturday. We appreciate all the time, and good luck.
Thank you.
Always great having Bill Tierney on. Good stuff there.
Life goes on without Trevor Baptiste.
It does. It's going on. I mean, they still got a good team. It's still going to be a great game on Saturday. You can see Travis and Coach Tierney's full conversation right now on demand on LacSportsNetwork.com and the LSN app. Coach Tierney actually also touches on his thoughts on the new proposed FIL rules, so you're going to want to see that too. It's a hot topic, in case you were wondering. And we'll get you ready not only for Denver Towson, but all the action, the biggest games around the country on LSN College Central every Saturday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. It's all free, LacSportsNetwork.com and the LSN app. And we do have Instagram Live right before that on our page. It's a lot of fun. A little behind the scenes. The high school season beginning this week for athletes around the country. We head to some of the hot spots next. Rounding them up.
Designing extra man offense plays, it's best to incorporate some element of surprise to try to confuse a defense. This 1-4-1 to a 3-3 uses a ball side slip screen to try to get an easy look in the crease. It's best suited for intermediate to advanced skill levels. The trigger on this play is the player at X. I'm going to have him go to the left, but feel free to mirror this and you can go to the right as well. He's going to carry to the left side. As this action occurs, we're going to get a little slip screen right here between these two players. The other crease man is going to roll off and be an outlet.
High school season now underway throughout the country. A lot of practices starting, games, things like that.
Rocking and rolling. Don't mind the snow in upstate New York.
We don't bother with that.
We just deal with that. Each week, we'll take you to different regions to break down what teams and what athletes are sticking out, what they're up to, previewing some of the future stars of the game. And why don't we start this week in Florida?
Well, we had a great season so far this year. Latest poll, we have Oxbridge still at the #1 spot. Terrific record in state. They've taken down Bishop Morris, St. Thomas, St. Andrews, and Jupiter so far. Number 2 position, Ponte Vedra, coming off the loss to Lambert at King of the Spring, rebounding nicely with big wins over Lake Island Prep and the Episcopal School of Dallas. Number 3 spot, St. Andrews has moved up. They've started to get healthy. They gave Boys Latin a heck of a tussle last night. Cardinal Mooney at number 4. They've just been playing a very fine game all season. The only loss at St. Andrews. Number 5 spot, we moved St. Thomas Aquinas up. Again, nice wins. The only loss in town or in state to Oxbridge. And at number 6, Jupiter, which had a couple of losses to Benjamin and to Oxbridge, and just fell off last year's state champs. Are still a threat, though, to win it all this year.
All right, so in Nassau County, on the boys' side, you got Garden City, reigning state champions, and then we also have Manhasset on the girls' side, who are also the state champs. Those 2 programs are some of the richest history in the sport at the high school level, so not just on Long Island, but also in the country. And they reload, and the coaching is outstanding within both of those programs, so it's kind of a no-brainer to get them at number 1. And then in Suffolk County, we have Ward Melville, who also won a state championship. They're a big school, so they're an A here on the island. And then on the girls' side, Northport is also a big school. They're an A on the island. Northport actually fell short in the county championship last year, but they return almost everyone besides their star, Emerson Cabrera, who was at Florida. And they actually got 2 transfers who are impact players. So that's kind of unique considering it's a public school. It's not like, someone can just, pay the tuition and it's all of a sudden get enrolled in the school. They actually have to move their home to switch schools. So that was kind of interesting. And I think that kind of created a little bit of hype around the program, which is why we put them there. For the boys, we actually picked St. Anthony's. We think that, they have so many stars that you've heard of. Brennan O'Neill comes to mind, a kid that, has one of the best highlight videos I think we've seen, in the highlight reel era, especially on Long Island. So he's a kid that can literally carry a team, but they're so deep besides him. And then on the girls' side, Sacred Heart Academy is, they won the championship in their league last year. They're a program that they've been around, but not as established as like in a St. Anthony's. And they've done a really good job over the last few years building up a program with girls who are just like going to some of literally America's best schools. So they bring back a lot of players. They're very well coached and they have a great program. So we kind of put them as the number 1 for the girls and the parochials.
So Puerto Rico lacrosse, we're coming off of a big summer that we had in Israel. Our national team placed 8th in the world. So that gave us a lot of momentum going into this year. So, April 4th, we're having a clinic in Catalina, PR, which is right outside of the capital of San Juan. And we're going to be hosting a clinic for 150 kids in a school. And this is the first time that that's ever been done on the island. So we're looking to slowly integrate lacrosse into the school system that way. And then following up with that, June 15th, that weekend, we're partnering with U.S. Lacrosse and Sankofa clinicians are coming down to do another big clinic on the west coast of the island. So again, just continuing the growth of the sport for the kids and the youth that way.
Yeah, interesting just to see where everyone's at and what everyone's up to this time of year.
Exactly.
Pretty cool. You can see all of our high school coverage, including full games and more right now, blacksportsnetwork.com or the LSN app.
Or just stay tuned to Lacrosse Now for our roundups each week.
Every week. We do it every Thursday night.
High
Good
school
stuff.
roundup.
So big weekend ahead. We got some good games coming up here.
Yeah, can't wait. Denver Townsend, Saturday, noon Eastern, here on LSN. Steve Panarelli and I on the call.
Ooh, I like that.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. I'll be here in the studio at LSN College Central, 11:30. We have tomorrow first, so come back and join us tomorrow night.
We'll get you ready for all the games. See you then. What's up? What's happening? Kicking into another edition of Lacrosse Now. He is Tom Eschen. I'm Travis Eltridge. Thanks for making us part of your March Madness. We're hoping for some madness of our own college lacrosse this weekend.
You needed a break from all those basketball games anyway,
exactly.
didn't you? I mean, you've been probably watching them all day. Time for some lacrosse.
Let's do it.
Start with what has become the battle for the Big Ten in the women's side. We have Penn State versus Maryland, two programs that combined for 5 Final Four trips in the last 3 years.
It's a lot.
Those two playing in Happy Valley tonight.
We had an upset alert in this one.
We sure did. It was the first nationally televised game in Panzer Stadium history, and Kathy Reese not pleased with her team early on, and you're going to see why. It was a little wet out there. Sydney Wolfington comes from behind. Penn State up 2-0 early. They would take a 3-0 lead, I believe, also in this one. Then here comes Maryland, obviously pumped up from that speech by Kathy Reese. Erica Evans, who had a couple goals. The lead has cut to just 1. A little rainy out there, a little damp. There's a big storm coming in the northeast here in the next couple days. There's your weather report. Now here's a goal from Caleb Reese-Olari, who had a couple goals. 4-3 Penn State. They still have the lead after that game was tied. Later in the first half, it's tied at 4. Callie Hartshorn, the little BTB.
Oh.
That's a big-time BTB.
Man.
With some oomph behind it. She had a hat trick. 5-4 Maryland. Let's go to the second half. Maryland got things going now. They're working it. Caroline Steele had a hat trick of herself. 11-5 Maryland. We go to the second half and 16-5.
Man, it got out of hand quickly.
Megan Siverson shoots and scores. 17-5. Maryland goes on to win this one. And as you can see, it was pretty convincing. 17-6. Brandy Griffin with 6 points. Grace Griffin, no relation, finishing with 5 on her own. Hartshorn had 4. Maryland won 19 of the 25 draw controls. Taylor Suppley with 16 saves for Penn State. The Terps are at James Madison on Sunday. The Terps are, Penn State is at Northwestern a week from now.
Yeah, that Maryland and JMU game you can see here on Lac Sports Network.
That's right.
On Sunday.
It's exciting.
That's a big one. JMU trying to bounce back. How about a few other scores to pass along from today's action? Winthrop all over Wofford, 18-4. You had Lauren Morris scoring 8 points for Winthrop, getting their second win of the year, improving to